The methodology for our study was generalized methods of movements. First of all, we are going to discuss some prerequisites that this method requires before moving on to explain its commands. The prerequisite it requires is first of all is that it should be a panel letter. Panel letter also known as a longitudinal letter and should have cross-sectional time series data. Moreover, the model should be a dynamic panel model, which means that it would involve a lagged version of the dependent variable as an independent variable. In our case, it is the lag of the economic growth of host countries. For our sampling basis, we have taken 10 host countries that not only belong to the Asian region but also have highest CO2 emissions. These are China, India, Japan, South Korea, Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, Pakistan, Philippines, and Bangladesh. And for as far as our source countries are concerned, those are USA, France, UK, Japan, and Canada, with whom these host countries have highest bilateral trade. The data ranges from 2000 to 2020. Let me show it in Stata as I've already downloaded it. And so these are all the source countries, host countries, whereas USA, France, and UK, Germany, Canada are all source countries, whereas China, India, Japan are all the host countries. Moving on, uh, moving on. Some other prerequisites are, or the reasons why we use GMM are that the data might involve indigeneity, as we know that our economic equation involves a lagged version of the dependent variable. So this means that this variable is correlated with this variable, which brings in endogeneity in our data. Moreover, it also treats heteroscedasticity, serial autocorrelation, and accounts for measurement error. The instruments used in the command will, when further I'll show you, are GMM style. Uh, this Under this bracket we have to mention all the internal instruments. In our case, it is the lag version of the dependent variable, and the other variables are going to be stated here. This methodology was developed by Arellano and Bond and London and Bond. So this is our econometric equation. Uh, this GDPB measures economic growth, the CO2 emissions, foreign direct investment, financial development stands for FD, K capital, TO trade openness, education and technology. The differences have been taken to the differences here, like we see that different CO2 age and source countries, which means the difference between the CO2 emissions of host and source countries. We will subtract host country CO2 emissions from the source country CO2 emissions. This is to measure the net impact of the CO2 emissions of source countries on host countries. Um, Moving on, the command for the GMM model is asstock xta-2. This package will be installed in Stata. All the first, as the regression criteria states, the dependent variable is stated, then all the independent variables. In our case, since this is the lagged version of the dependent variable, which means it will have some elements of endogeneity in it, or endogeneity in other words are the internal instruments that are highly correlated to the dependent variable. So we are going to uh, write it down after GMM. GMM stands for Generalized Momentum Methods. It actually usually removes endogeneity by the subtracting the previous values of the lagged variables from the current values. Here we are taking uh, not only single lags but two lags. Why? This was suggested by Blunden and Bond, which who suggested that taking two lags will give more robust results. IV stands for instrumental variables, and all other variables that were thought to be as external to the equation, not highly correlated with the uh, dependent variable, they are stated in here. Um, uh, then there comes, this is built-in command of the GMM. No level, robust, small, all. It is not necessary to write these. Even if they leave it blank, the results of the regression are going to be the same. However, if we add in these, the results are going to be more robust. These stand for different purposes. No level signifies difference. GMM estimators robust option provides heteroscedastic and autocorrelation consistent variance covariance matrix. Small option indicates that T statistics or F statistics will be provided. As suggested by the statistician, these commands are not necessary to give significantly different answers, so you can omit any or use any of these commands. Now moving on to Stata, uh, we'll show how the commands are executed. First of all, we import the uh, data. Now, for GMM to be run, we have to first declare the the data as a panel data. For that, we have these two commands. I'm going to simply copy paste it. So yes, this is the command. Here we show that our we identify the Stata identifies our data as a panel data, and as it can be seen, our data is strongly balanced. It does not matter even if it is unbalanced. The command for uh, GMM is xta bond 2. This signifies our dependent variable, our independent variable, lagged of log GDP, then CO2, FDI, capital, financial development. We will run all these for each country, each source country separately, and then collectively for all source countries. I've simply copy pasted it and then generated results on Stata. These show the number of rows, number of instruments. These are the regression coefficients, and these tells us their significance values. The Arellano bond should be significant. It shows that it is above uh, 5% significance level. So this shows that there is no serial autocorrelation as uh, written down here. The Arellano bond 2 was developed or suggested by Arellano and Bond in 1998. The null hypothesis of this is that the lag dependent variable is exogenous, which means that it is not correlated with the error term. When the significance level is higher than 0.05, which means we should not reject the null hypothesis, meaning that we are accepting the null hypothesis that lag dependent variable is exogenous. But it should be kept in mind that before that, all the normality assumptions should be met. But the only However, it should be kept in mind that all the normality tests were carried out before I showed you these commands, such as skewness, kurtosis, and other outliers were removed as well. Furthermore, the only thing that will make us realize that GMM is appropriate will be our heteroscedasticity and autocorrelation test, which will show that there exists not only endogeneity, serial correlation, and heteroscedasticity. So we must use GMM. So this was overall an introduction to the GMM command. First, we went on to specifying its prerequisites, then the reason for its usage, explaining my econometric equation used in this study, the command used for it, and then the robustness checks.